This is the third Git Good session. This will be on Here's the Storm. The lesson will in particular be for new players and players from League of Legends and Dota. I'm Zane Castillo, known in game as Z Fury. Brad just calls me idiot. So today we'll be going over the differences between other MOBAs, different nuances to the maps, which I think is the biggest difference. Drafting and laning and rotations. Then we'll go over some advanced techniques, and I'll have a question section, answer some questions for you guys. So who am I? I am Z Fury on the region NA, and obviously, but I think it's important because I want to talk about the region a little bit. I think NA is pretty strong right now. I think it's a lot stronger than people think it is. We're still technically the world champions. Cloud9 won the BlizzCon event. We did recently kind of get our ass handed to us by Korea and China in the spring championship, but I think it's a lot closer than people think it is, and we are definitely way better than Europe. They're pretty garbage. I play Warrior and Flex. Flex is kind of a weird thing I'll go over in the future. And then my highest MMR was 4,200. My highest rating was number 4 on NA. So the two teams I played on, the first one was Convergence about 2 years ago. We had some notable tournament wins against teams like Barrel Boys, but I think our biggest accomplishment would probably be taking a scrim off of SMG before they were Tempo Storm in that picture there. While they were at the height of their dominance. While they were at their dominance, they didn't lose one tournament match and they lost 30 scrims. Storm was the team I was on the longest. I was on the Storm for 6 months, and it was a really good experience for me. Really learned a lot. I played with Mookie, Pants, and Rusty, two really good solo queue players, and we actually had a positive tournament rating. And then my favorite hero is Kerrigan. She's pretty bad right now, but super fun. So we're going to go over some of the biggest differences between League of Legends, Dota, and Here's the Storm. First one is the maps. On the left you can see the Summoner's Rift, which is League of Legends map, and on the right you'll see the Dota map. They're both square maps with 3 lanes with a river in the middle and a large objective. In League of Legends it's Baron Nashor, and in Dota it's Roshan. If you didn't know, Roshan is just Nashor backwards. So they're very similar. And this is the Here's the Storm map. It's probably the most glaring difference is the fact that there's 10 of them, 9 currently in the playable format, and all have different objectives. I would categorize them into 3 different types of maps. Within those 3 different types, they are very similar, but the types themselves are radically different from one another. One of the other big differences is the levels and experience. As you can see here, you get experience based on your team. You don't actually have individual XP or levels. I think this is the biggest thing that kind of makes Heroes of the Storm different. So if you have one person bottom, while they're solo, they're still helping the team out. So if you have 5 people for one objective, you're actually sacrificing experience for the team on the map. And this leads to strategies where you can give up objectives to try to get a level experience in the future. Also, there are no items in Heroes of the Storm. Instead, it replaces it with a talent system. Talents are on 4, 7, 10, 13, 16, and 20. And with the talent system, every individual talent tier gives you a slew of options to kind of change how different abilities work. And what this kind of basically does is, let's say for League of Legends you want to build Vayne, and you can't build AP items on Vayne. You can't make Vayne into a mage. But in this game, for some of the more flexible heroes like Falstad and Vala, you can actually make them play in many different ways. For those examples specifically, Vala can build a Q build where she's more of a single target burst mage, resets with her vault, or she can build multi-shot, which is kind of a sustained AoE semi-mage like damage, but it's more for wave clear, or she can build a full single target auto attack 80 damage. So those are just like a few of the options you can do that really differentiate yourself from the pack. And then the competitive roles. So Blizzard has 3 roles that they label: Specialist, Warrior, and Support. But in the competitive scene, there's 4. There's the Assassin player, the Support player, the Warrior player, or the Flex player. Now the Flex player is something that isn't really in any other game, and that's because of all these different maps and all these different talents. It makes it so where, let's say for League, you have a jungler, you always have 2 people in the bottom lane, you always have 1 top, 1 mid. This game you can have 2 warriors, you can have 2 supports, you can go with 0 warriors and a melee assassin. It all depends, and that's why you need this flex role. You'll never see Double Lift go Lissandra mid. You'll never see, let's say, Wild Turtle play Lee Sin top. But in this game you could feasibly see a pro level tank player play an assassin or play a specialist like Abathur. And I think that is really cool for the diversity watching the pro players play the game. So individually, the maps, we'll start off with Sky Temple. This is what I call an objective core siege map, in which case, when you get the objective, it starts doing structure damage to the point where if there are no structures, it'll do core damage. The key merc camp on this one is Knights. Probably the only really important one. The easy camps are you can kind of ignore, but the Knights, when the second temple spawns, it will always spawn bottom. If you get those Knights top and you time it correctly, as you can see, the timers are above. If you time it correctly, you can send your 5-stack bottom while the Knight camp is pushing top lane. And the enemy team has to respond in 2 ways. They can send one person top, in which case you get the shrine bottom for free. Or they can send no one top, in which case you can stall out bottom, don't look to hard engage, and just let your Knights push top and get the fort for you. Generally, one charge of the shrines won't even be enough to get the wall and the fort, but if you play it properly, your Knights can completely decimate the top fort. Blackheart's Bay is another core siege map. This is again a map where if the structures are dead, it will do core damage. This is a map where if you turn in 10 coins to start, and to the middle of the map, it will start doing the structure damage, starting with mid, then going to top, and then bottom. So this map, the key merc camps, is a new merc camp that's not on any other maps, and that's the pirate camp. It's a small, very, very easy to do camp that does almost no damage, but it nets you 2 coins. So the first time you turn in, it will be 10 coins. Every subsequent turn in will be 2 extra coins on top of that. First chest spawn at 50, and this is kind of a key part of the strategy of the map. The solo lane for this map is bottom because it's so far away from the top 2, and the 4 will go top and mid. A common strategy is to send 4 top, clear that wave to get the level 2 advantage, and then go team fight at the chest. Towers of Doom is the last core siege map, and this is the most different map from, I think, any of the other maps in the fact that you can attack the core with your heroes. The objective is the only way to win the map, and the boss doesn't push a lane but actually does core damage itself. All the merc camps, given a certain circumstance, are important because if the structures are down, it actually does core damage. There's not a lot to the objective timers. It's kind of wonky. There's no exact time for it, but it's give or take 10 seconds at 1 minute 30. And then the tunnel entrance spawns at about 12 minutes. Dragonshire, I think, is the most team-oriented map in the game. I think it's where you see the best pro games played, and this is what I would call a player pilot map for the objective. The key merc camp for it is none of them because they're all pretty garbage. You're only doing merc camps on this if there's nothing else to do. Why I call it a player pilot map is the objectives are, on this map specifically, the shrines at the top and bottom. If you capture both of them, you can get the Dragon Knight in the middle, and the player actually gives up his abilities to control the Dragon Knight and gets a new set of abilities. Most notably to push a specific lane. Garden Terror is another player pilot map. Key merc camp is a new merc camp on this map called the Small Seed Camp. These seeds, a lot of people don't know this, actually give XP. So if you're being aggressive on their side of the seeds, you can actually get a little advantage and kind of push your advantage that way. If you get 100 seeds, you can pilot a Garden Terror. And the difference with this map is you can actually stack seeds over 100. So you can get one of your Garden Terrors and still have seeds left over for the next one. First night is at 1 minute 30, and that's probably the most important timer you want to keep in your head on this map. You want to kind of be in position at 1 minute 20 seconds. If you can kind of set up in their bush on the aggressive side of the map, you can catch people out going to their defensive seeds. And you can get that quick pick and then get both of your side of the map of seeds. Infernal Shrines is probably the beginning of the new objective type I'll call, which is standard push, which is kind of just where the objective pushes with your team, and you want to use the objective to either push the lane with the objective or use it as pressure to get mercs or push another lane. So the key merc camp on this one is any. They're all very powerful. If I'd highlight anyone, it would be the middle ones, because if the pathing is used correctly or it gives vision of the fort, they can actually do significant siege damage behind the wall to the forts. The first shrine will spawn at 1 minute 45, and after the boss is killed, 1:45 after that, the next shrines will spawn. The shrines will be spawning at random, and they have 3 random affixes. So it could be Arcane, which is the strongest, Frozen, which is the second strongest, and Mortar, which is the third strongest. And that's completely random. If you play Diablo, it functions much in the same way as it does in that game. We'll talk more about the specifics of this map in a little bit. So Tomb of the Spider Queen, my favorite map personally. It's another standard push map. All the merc camps are really garbage on this map, so don't worry about them. So 50 gems for the initial turn-in. The 2 orange markers are the turn-in locations. And then 5 more gems are required for each subsequent turn-in. 3 gems are dropped per minion wave. This is a map where the solo lane is usually bottom, and then you want to clear swap between top and mid. And I'll kind of explain what clear swapping is in a second. Battlefield of Eternity is another standard push map. The key merc camp is the mid shaman camp. If you can capture the mid shaman camp in the same way as Sky Temple, the Knight's top lane, you can use it as pressure to take the objective or force a team fight. The first immortal is 1:45, and it's not that significant. You can kind of give up the first immortal if you really need to. The second and third are very powerful though. So this is the only objective in the game where the damage you do to the immortal, even if you don't win the objective, actually nets you some gain. It takes off the shield of their push. So I think it's, in that way, the best designed map objective-wise. And then Cursed Hollow is probably the most standard map in the game. The key objectives on the map are less of the tributes and more of the bosses. That's going to be your game winner. So that's the key merc camp here, although all the merc camps are pretty important. First tribute is at 2:30, give or take 20 seconds. It's very easy to give up the first 2 tributes if you don't have a strong teamfight comp. The curse times are completely random throughout the game, but you can predict curse locations to an extent. So let's say you divide up the curse spawn locations into 3 quadrants, the left, the middle, and the right. If the 2 curses are top left and top middle quadrant, then the 3rd curse will always be on the bottom right quadrant. So that's about the only level that you can predict. Every 3 curses, it completely resets. So drafting in this game, it's pretty cool. It's a little different than League and Dota. It's a mixture of the 2. I don't want to shit on League, it's a good game, but I think the drafting system is really poor. You do 3 bans in the beginning, and you don't get to mid-ban and actually kind of draft and interact with what your opponent's doing draft-wise. So, I mean, 3 is not even really enough for the amount of champions they have in the first place. Dota, it's really cool, it's really awesome. They have multiple mid-bans, but it's also really overly complicated for a new viewer, and I think HOTS kind of takes it to a more simplistic level while giving interactivity. So we'll be doing a mock draft between Tempo Storm and Cloud9. This was actually from DreamHack last night when I was adminning for it. And so we'll kind of walk it through. Tempo Storm has the first pick, which means Cloud9 gets the first ban. Their first ban was, it looks like Zagara. And the first ban for Tempo Storm was Sylvanas. The Tempo Storm would then first pick Zol. And that gives Cloud9 2 picks. So they can counter the first pick Zol with Thrall, which they did, and then pick up a strong AD and Greymane. So Tempo Storm, after these 2 picks from Cloud9, gets to pick 2 picks of their own, and they get Sonya and Rhaegar. So this is when the mid-ban system comes in. I think, yeah, Cloud9 gets to ban ETC. They kind of get to see what Tempo Storm is going for in their comp. They already have 3 heroes, and they can kind of see what comp they're going for. So they decide to ban out ETC, which is going to be really strong with Sonya and Zol. And then Tempo Storm gets their second mid-ban, which is Tassadar. You can't really see what Cloud9 is doing, which is kind of the strength of only having 2 picks before the mid-ban. So they kind of just ban out something that's strong right now in Tassadar. They didn't really ban out a comp specifically. And then Tempo Storm gets their final 2 picks in KT and Dahaka. And this leaves Cloud9 with a very pivotal pick, which is the last pick. They get to pick their support, in this case, with entire knowledge of what Tempo Storm is doing. So just to reiterate, it is first ban Cloud9, first ban Tempo, first pick Tempo, next 2 picks Cloud9, next 2 picks Tempo, ban Cloud9, ban Tempo, 2 picks Tempo, last pick Cloud9. And this will be kind of an interactive next 5-10 minutes where I talk about the tier list. This is my personal tier list. It's kind of a mixture between competitive and solo queue. Weldon's going to be really sad Gazlo's bottom. Does anyone have any questions on the tier list? What's strong right now? What's not? Why I have people where they are?
What is Abathur tier?
Abathur is, so because this is a mixture between solo queue and competitive, depending on who's playing it, what patch it is, what talent build he's going, who's on your team, he can be last tier 5 or he could be number 1 tier 1. Also map. Map is a big key in it. So I just made Abathur tier because he could be anywhere depending on the situation. What's up, Justin?
Would you say that the tier list would vary depending on the map?
Yeah, absolutely. There's some map-specific heroes, like Lost Viking would probably be tier 1 on Garden of Terror, and Dumpster tier on something like Tomb of the Spider Queen. So that's why he's like kind of smack dab in the middle. And then some people are, yeah, they just have a real strong proclivity to some maps, like, let's see, Aether, as we've said before. Dahaka is one where some maps like Dragonshire, he's honestly one of the top 5, 6 picks. But on some maps with awful locations on the vents like Tomb of the Spider Queen, he's not that good.
Why is Diablo in tier 4?
Diablo's really good in solo queue, especially if you have someone that knows what you're doing, especially if you have like a Tyrande or someone that can follow up. In competitive, he doesn't provide enough. People aren't going to be caught out in competitive for him to capitalize on a strong CC chain. Also, if he's in the front, he doesn't have much innate takiness, and if a strong team collapses on him, he can die pretty quickly.
Okay.
He can be used really effectively though. And the thing is, with this game, I want to touch on that specifically because you'll see, as y'all saw in Here's the Dorm Finals, Arcanus was picked. You'll see Asmodean on some maps. It's not, and Arthas is even pretty good. He's tier 5. So it's not like League of Legends or Dota where some of the bottom tiers you'll never see competitive. It's all pretty well balanced, I would say. So just because someone's in tier 4 doesn't mean you'll never see it. Like Raynor, I have a tier 4. Fan actually picked him for Arizona State in one of their game-winning matches for Here's the Dorm.
Okay.
Are they organized in order on their row tier line and columns too?
Yeah, they actually are. Just row and column, yeah. So it's not as strong as I would say the tiers are themselves, but yeah, they're definitely in a certain order. It's up to us.
Is this pre-patch?
This is post-patch. I would say Tychus could be moved up depending on the situation. A la Cho'Gall. Is that well done?
What tier is Gaul in?
Tears Gaul. See, I think Cho by himself could still be decent. Gaul by himself would stay in base. So I think. Alright, so we'll talk about laning and rotations. And this will just be a section where I kind of talk about what I think are the keys to winning the game and controlling objectives, and also kind of touching on some of the weirder laning mechanics that aren't present in other games. So, to start off the game, almost all the time, I would recommend going 5 mid lane. And you don't want to do this. You don't want to do this in Dota because if you send 5 mid, you're going to miss out on gold. You're going to miss out on XP. In this game, the maps are pretty short, and you're going to be able to rotate to your lane without missing anything. And if you send 5 mid, you can collapse and maybe get a pick. The best reason to send 5 mid, especially in solo queue, is your pugs are probably going to be awful. Y'all know this, right? So one person's going to face check, and it's much more important that you be there to either save them or turn around the kill, and then rotate to your lane and not miss anything, than it is for you just to sit behind your gate in your lane. So definitely go 5 mid to start off the back, and then you want to nurture your solo lane. The solo lanes in this game is probably going to be Thrall, Zagara, or Zol, and depending on the matchup, like let's say Zol is going to just destroy Zagara if the Zagara doesn't play perfectly. If you send a roamer up to kind of provide pressure to the Zol, it can really change the pace of the map. It can slow down Zagara's creep and really just control the game that way. Other than that, you either want to rotate and clear swap, which I'll talk about in a little bit, or do a tri-lane, which is a 1-1-3. Generally in tri-lanes, you want to have your solo laner, top or bottom, depending on the map. Then you want to have either a strong safe mage middle or a wave clear tank like Johanna or Leorg. And then 3, the tri-lane will also always have support in it. So by 10 minutes you want to control the objectives by way of your rotations and mercenary camps using some of the strategies I talked about in the map section, and use your level advantage. And if you do all of these in order, you should be able to win a game, but if you are ever behind at any point, you need to completely adapt and wait out for your level or try to force a mistake from the enemy. At 15 minutes, you want to siege or split push with objectives and mercenary camps. Hopefully, at this point, you have been getting objectives. At 20 minutes, you want to close out games by maintaining objective control. So clear swapping is something I've talked about a few times. It's probably the most prevalent lane clearing technique in the game that isn't really prevalent in League or Dota because of the shared XP system. So it's best used on smaller maps, but I would say about half the maps this can be employed in effectively. Even in Infernal Shrines, you see a lot of clear swapping, and that's a pretty large map. So it can be used to put the opponent on the back. Especially on this map, you can make sure that you get every single gem and prevent them from getting gems. What this does also in solo queue, if the team isn't coherent, the enemy team isn't, and you guys are clear swapping, it's very, very easy to get fixed. Alright, so we'll go over some advanced techniques that isn't just map specific. This technique will be about controlling the game, and I think Falstad right now is the best hero for that. I have Falstad at number 2 on my tier list, but I would say for solo queue, he's definitely number 1, and it's because of his Mighty Gust ability. So when you read Mighty Gust, pushes enemies away, slows their movement speed by 60%, and then that movement speed decays, you automatically think, what a great disengage tool. You'll use this to save teammates, and that's why it's good in solo queue. But you can use it to be aggressive as well. So because it actually pushes them away, if you use it aggressively with your fly ability, which is in place of your mount, you can position yourself properly to where you can push enemies into a wall. If you push them into a wall, they're still being pushed back, and it essentially functions as a stun. So it's probably the only ability in the game that has a stun and a displacement other than Sundering for Thrall, but it's much more easy to control. And then I have a clip here that kind of shows within 2 minutes 2 uses of Gust in those 2 very distinct ways. So for this game, this is before the patch, before Falstad got his mage buffs, so I'm pretty sure I'm full auto attack, giant killer, tank questing build, so I'll just be on the tanks in this team fight. So the thing that's going to kill you the most in solo queue is not being able to engage properly. You have a tank on your team that is just afraid of being aggressive and won't go in. If you're Falstad, it's the only assassin in the game where you can really force engages other than Thrall. And then the other thing that'll kill you in solo queue is having that one idiot that walks into a bush and gets killed late game. And then you just lose a 5v4. So Falstad, that's why I'm at tier 1 for solo queue, because he can prevent both of those situations. This next advanced technique will be body blocking, and this first one is going to be just kind of a hilarious way to body block. Before I go into the video, body blocking is just the fact that in Here's the Storm, there is collision detection, so you can actually use your body to block the enemy team from going in a certain path if you play it properly. And this is just unfortunate for Rhaegar here. Oh, wow.
At least that wasn't
Poor dog. Real poor dog. And this is a more practical use of body blocking in higher MMR, where, as you can see here, I'm playing Murden at the top, and I have no mana to use any ability. My Q is down, I have no displacement, I have no way of actually controlling the map with my abilities. But I have my health and I have my body, and we're able to pick up a kill that way. Yeah, that's right.
Wait, what happened?
I'll watch it again. So I use my body to block this Thrall from actually getting to his gate and his team, and my team can kind of follow up. Alright. So we've gone almost, what is it, 30 minutes, 45 minutes without me being toxic, so.
That's a
It's
first.
time to change that. We have a bonus VOD analysis. So this small section will be about when to give up an objective. So this is a game I played, I think a couple months ago, where I played with a couple of friends, Kunriel and Contrarian and some others, and we have an Abathur on our team, right? We don't have a strong first objective team. And because of this, we decided to just give up the objective. They actually get the entire Punisher with 40 skulls because we sent 2 people bottom. During this, we got the entire bottom wall, most of the middle wall, and took a mercenary camp that is going to be sieging the fort middle. And because we played this properly, we're able to minimize the damage top lane, and because we gave them the full objective, we are still able to take more out of it than the objective gives, because they tunnel on 300. So something you can do on this map is actually pull the Punisher over the wall, and when you do that, the fort hits it and both of the towers hit it, and it dies pretty quickly. So they're only able to get 2 towers here and a wall, while we were able to get 4 towers, 2 walls, and damage on 2 forts. And here's how not to do it.
Oh my god.
All right, so this is the point where Bradford in Discord, I think the exact quote is, "I'm here, guys." As you can see, he's not here, guys. So Knight and Justin go in and die pretty immediately.
Because we listen to Brad.
I trust him.
Dude, if only you could hear comms right now.
Yo, if you hear comms,
He's
dude.
there now.
There's just laughter everywhere.
I think I'm screaming, "Get behind the gate." And he does, but he does. He gets behind the gate, but he decides, "I'm going to 1v5. I'm good at this game."
And then
Yo, you gotta
It doesn't
get
go
some
well.
of
that's
that.
when Zane just lashes out on Brad. She goes,
Fuck you.
Brad.
Zane told me to kill myself at least 6 times that game. It was a pretty good day.
So we were actually winning this game before this fight, by the way, and we were full level up, and we actually got the first objective.
Two levels up.
2 levels up.
Life is tough.
And I think right here, I'm pretty sure Justin's trolling me.
That was my first time playing Zolt.
Oh, he walks right back into it. And we lose on that push.
No, we don't.
Yeah,
we
well,
lose a lot. We lose the next
It
one.
goes to the core, and then we lose 2 minutes later.
Yeah, but that's not on that
We're
push
so
though.
lucky, man.
Okay, that was 8 minutes into the game.
So much lag in our game, it was ridiculous.
Alright, does anyone have any questions?
So, I got it.
No.
So like, will there ever be